in 2017 to award the Frank Wright Medal to Robert Pattie. Congratulations. Whilst Robert makes his way to the stage, I want to read a short bio. Robert Pattie was born in Ballarat on the 19th of March 1944. Both his grandfather and father have played in the Ballarat City Brass Band. Robert is a third-generation member of the City of Ballarat Municipal Brass Band with his sister Jan. Robert's two children and Jan's two children have also played with the band at one stage. He first learnt the cornet in the Ballarat City Junior Band in the early 1950s and then moved to the Senior Band in 1958. Since then, he's played in A, B, C and D grade bands on B-flat cornet, E-flat soprano cornet and flute and horn. His main position has been and still is solo cornet. Over the years, Robert has played with and even conducted many bands in the western and northwestern regions of Victoria. Some of those bands have been Oyen, Stawell, Maryborough, Beaufort and Bendigo. In 1993, he became a member of the Vintage Brass Band, which rehearses in the Ballarat City Brass Band rooms. When the Vintage Brass Band musical director Ray Harris became too ill to conduct in 2005, Bob took over the musical director role. It's a position he still holds to this day. One thing of note is that the Vintage Brass Band is made up of retired brass musicians from many different cities and towns, as far away as Geelong, Ararat, Bendigo, and smaller towns such as Maryborough, Daylesford, Beaufort, Warwick, Blampede, and Bannockburn, and many more. Robert is the only member of the Vintage Brass Band, both past and present, who can boast that he has had both his parents come and listen to him play in the Vintage Brass Band. Some good genes in that family, I think. Robert has also been very supportive and instrumental in training many juniors over his whole brass band life. His interest in training younger members of the band started before even his own children started learning brass instruments. He has over the years been the training band musical director on several occasions. It would be fair to say that hundreds of brass band musicians have been taught by Robert Pattie. Even today, he still assists the training band of Ballarat City Brass. Robert was made a life member of Ballarat City Brass Band in 1992 and in 1995 was appointed musical director, a position he held continuously for 10 years. He's also been the assistant musical director since 2005. He's also been the band librarian and historian for over 25 years. As the band historian and also an avid history buff on brass bands, he decided to write the history of the Ballarat City Brass Band from its formation in 1887 up until the year 2000. This book was released in 2000 and was approximately 180 pages of facts, names and other details of the competitions from around Ballarat and the history of the band. In 2010 he re-released the book with an added 220 pages of a more detailed history of the band from 2000 to 2010. In 2012 he released another book about Ballarat Brass Band called Prout's Ballarat Brass Band. This band was formed in 1857 in the goldfields of Ballarat and went on to be one of the most highly decorated drill bands in Australian history. Unfortunately, that band did fold in 1924. Robert Pattie has been and still is the backbone of the Ballarat City Brass Band. He's been a member of the band as a junior and senior playing member for over 60 years and still contributes over and above that expected of any musician in a band. He still acts as the band librarian and can tell you what any piece of music in the library is just by giving you the title. And that's apparently over 127 years of music tucked away in there. Robert's time with the band has been very busy. He's held every committee position within the band. He never wanted to be president, but in November last year, he finally relented and took on the role. He's been an active committee member on and off for more than 40 years. Whilst Robert may not be as famous as some of the other Ballarat City Brass Band legends, such as Percy Coate and Frank Wright, his input into the Ballarat City Brass Band has helped keep the band alive and still actively training future band musicians for the future. Congratulations, Robert Pattie.
Thanks very much, VBL and all people associated with the banding community. I'm completely overwhelmed because I didn't know this was going to happen. Yes, I've had a fair bit to do with reading all about Frank Wright and doing the history of that I actually wrote, if anybody's interested, all Frank Wright's scrapbooks came back to Ballarat University a couple of years ago. As far as I know, I went out there and had a look at them. They're very interesting. Everything he used to do, both in Victoria and overseas. When he went overseas, he kept the cuttings and he put them in his scrapbooks. While he was here conducting the Ballarat City Band in the 1920s, every time the band played down the street, he'd write a bit for the Ballarat Courier and then go and put it in the Ballarat Courier before he went home, so it would be in the next day's Courier. So he ended up with all his cuttings of all the great things he did. And my grandfather, Bert, was a musician and he was also a bookbinder. And before Frank went overseas to take up his position with the London Council, he went and saw my grandfather and had all the cuttings put into a proper bound book. And this is what I went out to the Ballarat University, and this is what returned to Australia a couple of years ago. So it was very interesting looking through them all. So it was great. And one other thing you might be interested in relation to Frank Wright, one of the old guys that used to hang around the Ballarat City Band, he told me that he came into this very theatre here and he said, one of the biggest thrills I ever had was that I heard Percy Code and Frank Wright playing Ida and Dot right here on this stage with the band. He said it was one of the most marvellous things I'd ever heard. Anyway, you don't want to hear me raving on, you want the results, I know. And I want to go away and have a look at find out what the football results were. But thanks very much. I'm honoured, I'm overwhelmed. Thank you.